good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, depending on which part of the world you are and from where you are watching us, right here with us live here or through the studio on the platform. It is truly my pleasure to invite you to be at the second day of the Rise Pico World Summit. I am Karon Shaiva, the convener of the summit, and of course, today, part of this wonderful roundtable that I've also been asked to be a part of. It is really our pleasure to welcome you. And as you just saw the video, this is really what the RISE Summit is all about. The RISE values, responsible, inclusive, sustainable, and ecosystem friendly, that allows us all to really drive us towards positive action for the world to make it a better place and a greener planet. Once again, a very warm welcome to the RISE Pico World Summit. And I would encourage you to listen and really hear what our experts, wonderful panel of experts who are going to talk to us. Note, I did not say speakers because this is more than just speaking. It is right from the heart and the head. Over to you, Ms. Swati, who's going to now take us forward and take us much, much deeper into the topic. You need to unmute yourself, Swati. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Karen. And such a pleasure for ECA APER to partner with RISE for this impactful roundtable, for which we have a host of educators who are passionate and committed. I'm not going to go into long introductions because I feel these days Google Auntie helps us a lot, but I am going to name them. We've already met Karen from RISE. We have Rekha Shahani, who's our diplomatic secretary of ECA APER. We then have, as part of our panel today, Nanu Rekhi, who's a wonderful educator who I really look up to from Delhi. We have Jasmine Saini, who's basically a founder of a preschool. We have Amrita Burman joining us from Varanasi, a wonderfully invested deputy director of the Sunbeams group of schools. We then have Monica Bimwal from Pathways. I admire the work that Pathways does. And I always tell people, do visit all these schools in Delhi. So Monica is there with us. We then have Sumita Malik. I was so inspired when I visited her school and met her children. She is the head of early years Shivnadar group of schools, which is again in Delhi. And then we have Yesha Mahesh. If you have ever attended her sessions, they are mind blowing. She is the academic head of the pre primary of the Children's Academy group of schools from Mumbai. So we have this excellent roundtable with people from early years and preparatory years in leading roles, impacting education. And our topic for today is Teachers for Change. And if you see the title, it says teacher and then there is the four number. And for me, I feel it stands for the four changes that teachers can bring. Teachers can bring about changes in the curriculum. Teachers can bring about changes in how they partner with parents. Teachers can bring about changes in how they engage with children. And teachers can bring about a change in how the world perceives education as the only way in which we can change anything in this world. So I'm going to throw this out now to the round table and to the experts. I'm going to open up with Rekha. Rekha, tell me, for you, what does Teachers for Change stand for?
Thank you, Swati. So, for me, the Teacher for Change stands for being the change yourself, being a role model, and doing everything one day at a time. And I have this in my head, as you know, that I can change the world. So, I feel that, one step at a time, baby step, but definitely be the change maker, be a great role model, and you can change the world and the system of education in our country and world.
Oh, that's brilliant. Karen Rice, and I think the call is Teachers for Change, let's rise together. So, Karen, what would you say about teachers and their impact on education?
Absolutely. So, the reason we actually did this as Teachers for Change, and of course, partnering with ECA and APER for this, is because we actually launched the Teachers for Change because of what we did with the Nobel Prize Teachers Summit. It was held for the first time ever outside of Stockholm, ever. Okay. And for the first time, it was held in India, where we partnered with the Sweden Consulate and hosted it over here. And as part of that, we did it 2 years in a row again because they were so happy and they did it. Now they do it in a way that allows people to do it and take it to their countries. But this was the first time which we did it. And at that time, the ask was, is there a way for us to create a movement, around Teachers for Change? And that's what got us started. And we, in fact, launched this 2 years ago at the very Rise World Summit that we're talking about right now, with the Council General from Sweden over there. And I think the idea is that today the role of teachers is changing, right? I think, you spoke about the four changes. I think the role itself is changing in many ways. The change we want is changing, and the role itself is changing. And so when that happens, we need to relook at our role and kind of say, okay, what is it that I need to bring with myself to my students or to the ecosystem, right? And so I think from that perspective is really what for me Teachers for Change is all about, is how do we understand the three major dimensions the world is really having a crisis on. One is the social crisis we are having. Second is the economic crisis that we are having. And the third is the environmental, right? The ecological. If we are not able to think along all these three dimensions together, we have a problem. So I'm going to stop over here as food for thought. But for me, Teachers for Change is the three-dimension approach. Thank you.
I fully agree with your point. It is so important that sometimes we undervalue the role of teachers. And especially sometimes I see management of schools not considering them as part of the decision making process. So I'm going to ask Nanu, because Nanu has been a teacher trainer and she's inspired thousands of teachers. So, Nanu, what, according to you, is a change or a shift that you have seen in teachers and their role pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, and what would you like to say about Teachers for Change?
Thank you so much, Swati ma'am. The only point that I'm going to make is that nomenclature matters. Thanks to the pandemic, that for the earlier especially, we are now facilitators instead of teachers. So for sustainability, why can't we be educationists and not just teachers? That's my point. Because the term and education in itself is all inclusive. And a teacher is more confined to classroom. When we call a teacher, she's more confined to the classroom teaching, or maybe, the literacy aspect. When we talk of bigger things, which we want children to catch up with right from their entry level, then we have to transform ourselves into educationists. A single teacher, a plain simple teacher, we have to empower and uplift for them to understand the concept for a wider horizon for themselves, and then to really get into it much deeper, to crisscross and then put it across to the children in an age appropriate manner. So if we kind of pull up on our self-esteem, we become a better clan, we start calling ourselves not plain simple teachers but educationists, who are not looking into the classroom situations only, but to a bigger scenario, maybe the social, the environmental, whatever. So that ways we can be more widened for our thought process, and reflect it through our classroom teaching and maybe through the curriculum. So it has to be wider for us for in the first instance.
I
That's
think
my first submission.
so beautifully you said facilitator, and I
Yes,
think
ma'am.
that's exactly what they do. They facilitate most of the things that happen in education, whether it's parent engagement or student engagement or curriculum implementation. They are actually facilitators. I'm going to go to the only man on the panel, which is Shri Umesh Kumarji, and he represents Nehru Science Center. Welcome, sir. Usually we visit these places, but we don't know the faces behind these places. So thank you to Rise for getting you on this panel. And I really want to ask you, sir, do you think that scientific mindedness needs to be more rooted in our teachers if we wanted to reach our children?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, ma'am, for giving me this opportunity. In fact, it is very much essential, as you said, scientific mind, because we should not see science as a subject.
Mm.
We should see as a part of life. Generally, it is a misconstrued term that only those who learn science only they can have scientific temper. It is applicable to each and every subject, each and every part of your life, the way you teach, the way, whether it is social studies, whether it is science subject or math subject, or even in English also, because even language has some scientific base. So when you want to communicate, even the best communication, we sometimes we give an example, means a small part of workshop normally, where we give one sentence to a person, and there are 10 or 20 you might have seen in some workshops also. And when the last person says, it is totally out of, means communication is very, very important, and this technical communication particularly, they are even more important. So scientific temperament and scientific mind is very, very important tool when you are interacting, when you are communicating, when you are teaching, or even when you are learning. So teachers must have that, and they should follow those scientific process in terms of teaching. One example I would like to give, for example, the very basis of science is the sentence should not be very, very large. I think there's some disturbance, so yeah, they can mute themselves. I was giving one example that sentence has to be in a very limited way, because if sentence is very large, when you translate, because somewhere back of mind in education, you always translate it to your mother tongue, and when you do the translation, you understand it better. So what happens if the sentence is very large? By the time you translate, you lose the meaning, or either from the beginning or from the end, and then the whole communication is lost. So I will means since answer has to be small, so I can conclude it by saying this: it is a very, very important tool that they should have the scientific band of mind and scientific approach in teaching, learning, or whatever they are doing.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I would urge all teachers not only to wait for a school field trip to happen to visit all these places, but to make it a part of their weekends, not as work, but as something that really will open up the thinking pores in the brain, because that's also so required. Monica, I would like to come to you where Pathways is concerned. And Pathways has always been invested in teacher upliftment, teacher education, teacher upskilling. So what are your thoughts on Teachers for Change?
Thank you, Dr. Vats. There has been, I think, a major shift in the philosophy of education. I'm sure everybody is going to agree with that. We have moved from what we should learn, then how we should learn, from what to teach to how it has to be taught. So I think it's very important that one of the panelists said that, the role is more of a facilitator. We have to see ourselves as facilitators, but I think it's very important for teachers because there are multiple roles within the role. The teacher's role has become very complex because there has been a shift towards the pedagogy of teaching, and it needs, some kind of empowerment and a lot of training for us to marry the content with the pedagogy. So I think it's very important for teachers to see themselves as facilitators, as learners, and as leaders. Because if a transformation has to happen, then the teacher needs to lead in terms of to be abreast of the changing requirements of a learner. The research in education, what you bring in into your classroom, the new pedagogies, the new strategies, because you have to lead by example. And if the teacher has a growth mindset, and she continues to learn and upskill herself, that's what you're going to bring to your classroom, because at the end of the day you want to optimize learning for every child. And we say every child is unique, every child is empowered. So if you want to tap on that uniqueness, the teacher has to operate from a growth mindset, and that comes when the teacher is playing these three roles to empower herself, to upskill herself. And that's something that has to come from within, because a lot of people are dependent on what the school has to provide as professional development. If you're committed to this role, you are committed to your own growth as a teacher. And for that, you need to be on this continuous path of learning and growing and upskilling yourself so that you can transform your classrooms the way they're meant to be. Because I think the learners uh, need to be empowered. I think we need to start creating more democratic classrooms there than the teacher, the shift of power from the teacher to the learners, where the children have a stake in the curriculum. They are stakeholders, which means that it requires a major shift in how teachers look at teaching in the classroom. So I think we strongly operate from these beliefs that how do we bring in the shift of power from the teacher to a more democratic setup in the classrooms.
I love the two words that you used. One is democratic and one is stakeholders. Whenever we talk about stakeholders, we only talk about parents or teachers or the trustees. We never look at children as a major stakeholder in this entire system of education. Really, I loved the points. I'm going to go to Amrita. Amrita, you have a lot of educational institutions and you head them all, and they're all over UP and the North. Um, how do you ensure that the sustainable development goals are understood by teachers or implemented in your schools? Can you shed some light on that?
So, hi, thank you so much. Um, See, for us, in fact, what I usually tell all my teachers and my children that for me personally, and therefore, like we've been talking about it a lot, the SDGs is like a religion. That's what I tell everyone,
Wow.
because I think that's where the future lies. If each one of us are committed to all the SDGs, follow them in every little thing that we do, I think the world will be obviously a safer place and a far more sustainable place for all of us to be in. Now, when it comes to how do you implement it, so for anything that we do, anything, we make it a point that we connect it to a particular SDG, or maybe one or two more, whatever. So that's one part. So children always think from the viewpoint of when we are doing this. For example, if you're going to be putting up an act for an annual day, where is the SDG going to be spoken about, taken forward to the children and to the parents when we're going to be acting this out? So if you're doing something on, say, taking education to the rural areas, then we will talk about SDG 4, for example. The other thing that we've done, which is something like a journey for us, it's not been easy, and we still have a long way to go. Everything that we teach in the class, let's take for example, a literature chapter, okay, that we are doing in literature. They've all been integrated, and some work has been given, some thought has been given in terms of an assignment discussion with an SDG. All that we do, even if we do a chapter of maths and we talk about division, we talk about sharing, and we talk about no hunger and no poverty. So every teacher, once she's in the course of teaching children, talks about the SDG to the children. So when I, have this feedback sessions with parents, with students, and I talk to all the stakeholders, as you rightly said, and I ask them, has it made a difference? We're just trying something. Has it made a difference? The parent comes back and tells me, even this little kindergarten child, would say, Mama, you can't afford to waste water because we need to be sustainable. And that's when we feel, oh God, we have tried a little. I think we made a little bit of progress. We have a long way. But SDG has become somewhere like a religion for Sunbeam, the institutions, Swati, that I am in. And it's become a religion for us. And children do talk about a sustainable future. So that's how, in everything that we do, we've brought in and speak about, make the children practice the SDGs.
Wonderful. And I always love the passion that you bring to your work.
Right.
Sunbeams, I think, is doing such exceptional work. And sometimes we always only look at schools in the metro cities and we think they are the leaders. But I must urge people to visit the Sunbeam group of schools. They are
Lovely.
doing really exceptional work, really.
Thank you.
And
Thank
I
you.
love the blend of Indian and Western that you have imbibed in your children, because I truly believe in roots to wings. It's very, very important that we do that. I'm going to go to Sumita now. Sumita, when I visited your school, I saw teachers who were very satisfied, very at peace with the work that they are doing, which is most of the time very difficult because teachers are in direct contact with parents. And to convince parents about the change in practices like play based education uh, is a task. So, how do your teachers manage to do that? How do your teachers bring the parents to understand what is right and what is suitable for children?
Yeah, thank you for this very interesting question. Very rightly said that it is not easy, for sure, to convince parents, and I think that's it's a continuum, which I would rather say, because it's very important for us to understand that if I am convinced, I will be able to convince the other, and that's what we work on. So any teacher who joins in, because our pedagogy is very different, we really don't teach in any other way the other schools would. Um, it's we don't have books till grade 5, so that's the first thing what a parent will also raise an eyebrow to. So it's very important for us to make our teachers understand that what is the rationale behind this kind of a curriculum and this kind of a pedagogy. And once an educator is with us and understands that and sees the value in what she's doing, we also give a lot of autonomy to teachers. And there is a lot of not only student voice but also teachers voice. And in that, when the teacher feels that even if I do a mistake, I know there is somebody standing behind my back, and it's okay to do mistakes. And that's precisely what we also tell our children. And as a community, we believe in that we are humans. It's all right to make mistakes, but we will not repeat that. And that is where we see that buy-in comes in. And that's where we also see that when we do a lot of sessions with our teachers on the approaches to teaching, they understand why we are doing what we are doing. And what we always do, what I always tell my teachers, that you need to ask yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? Is it really effective for my learner? And if it is not, then I should not do it. And I think that's something which brings in that buy-in for all the educators. And yes, we do a lot of sessions for our parents as well, where we also make sure the teachers are also making our parents experience what their child is doing inside the homeroom. So we call our classrooms as homerooms. So that the parent is also understanding what is happening, and we also involve parents. So it's never the thought that the parent is sitting across the table. We always say that we are together in this journey for our child. And that's where a lot of buy-in of a parent also comes in, and the teachers also become more confident of that.
Oh, that's wonderful. I think what you spoke about really makes us understand teacher agency and giving that freedom to teachers, which is actually their right. But it's sometimes taken away without us even realizing it. So I really love the way you put it all together. Now, to our listeners, I must tell you a secret about this roundtable. No paper was leaked, which means there was no exam paper given at the beginning to all the panelists that these are the questions that are going to be asked to you. So I'm sure that's what's done in every panel discussion. Everybody is given a set of questions and everybody comes prepared with their answers. So all the questions that you are seeing being thrown to these panelists are all organic, and that means they are all very, very committed educators, because I didn't see any one of them hesitating. And I think that's how panel discussions should be held, where it's a ongoing discussion, no preparation, because this is our life. I'm sure all of us are living it so much that this is what needs to come out. Let me go to Jasmine. Jasmine, you run a preschool of your own, and we call these usually standalone preschools, which means they are not part of a high school. And I always feel that the struggle in these standalone preschools is all the more A, in recruiting teachers, B, in training teachers, and C, in sustaining teachers. So tell us about that. What has your experience been?
Thank you, Swati ma'am, for including me into this. First of all, while recruiting, I think retaining them is the most difficult task for us. You know, there are so many preschools or competition in every areas now due to non-affiliation of preschools. So we are facing this thing that if we are little strict on something, so teachers are like, "Acha, theek hai, ma'am, main kal se nahi aa rahi hu." So this is the fact with not only with the teachers but with the lower staff as well. So
True.
what I do as a founder is I left everything onto them. I train them then what I am expecting from them for every child, as every child is unique. Every child is having their own traits. You cannot teach one method for a whole class. If there are 20 kids in one class, every single one child is different. We are having maximum age group of 2 to 3 or 3 to 4. So in that we need to see ki, acha, this child, we cannot be harsh with him, you know, we cannot be strict with him, we need to be little playful, or we can say that we need some stories for them to teach them phonics. So every single child is different, so I literally motivate them because they are doing something very unique. Parents are like, ma'am, we are not able to handle one child, how you are handling, you know, 40 kids at a time. It's literally like that, ma'am. But my point is, I, you know, literally uplift them by giving them trainings. By training them, they know that I am sitting here, I give everything, I have given them whole rights, you do whatever you want in your class, but yes, you know that this is the curriculum. By the age of 3 years, everything what it should be known to kids, it should be known to them. Now you decide how you want to teach them, how you will be preparing them for the outer world, how you will be preparing for the formal schools. So this is the case, ma'am, what we are doing right now in our preschools. Just to
I
ask.
know the tension of the standalone preschools. They always have this responsibility of preparing them for the formal schools,
Yes, ma'am.
which is something that ECA and APER has been working on. And we'll work slowly. And I hope IB and Cambridge and CBSC and CISCE are listening, that you have a whole sector open where you can affiliate your board, which is the preschool sector, where
Yes.
there is nothing like a board affiliation. And you should be looking into it. And it's something that I am going to, as ECA APER, we are going to push it to all the boards that affiliate karo preschools ko, to quality bhi hogi, recognition bhi hoga, and respect bhi hoga. I think
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
very, very important.
Yes, ma'am. One more point, because, ma'am, now what the scenario in Delhi is, I belong to Delhi, and particularly in Dwarka, every society is having preschool. They are naming themselves preschool, which is actually a daycare. So
Ah,
we are competing with them. We see, I'm sitting here just to learn everything so that I can impart onto the teachers and then to the our future leaders. But they are not doing it. So
yeah,
you know, sometimes this happens ki we are not given a chance to prove ourselves. So I
absolutely.
just want affiliations, ma'am.
Absolutely. We'll work on that.
Thank you.
Yesh, coming to you, you are an very, very passionate teacher trainer. I mean, when I attend your workshops, I can see your passion seeping through, and you are so you also bring out very different topics, and that's what I admire. Tell me, do you think there has been a change in teacher attitude or teacher involvement pre-pandemic compared to post-pandemic? Where do you place teachers pre-pandemic and post-pandemic?
Thank you, ma'am, for the question. So when I look at teachers post-pandemic, what I see is they are more engaged. They are researchers because I think during the pandemic we gave them an opportunity to go online to interact with the stakeholders and also take ownership of their teaching. And pre-pandemic, most of the time the teachers were in a cocoon in their classroom. They did take ownership of the classroom, but post pandemic, during the pandemic, they knew they were watched. They were watched by parents, they were watched by other educators. During that time, many of them evolved in the whole process. And I also feel that at that time, we had the NEP and the NCF come in, and it really made a change. It absolutely made a change. One, also in terms of us as leaders, because we as leaders started becoming mentors. We were more of administrators most of the time. We started becoming mentors by understanding these documents, going back to the teachers. And very important, what some a change that I've seen is there is kind of a bridge between pedagogy and between implementation. And I think we are lowering the gap. But somewhere I still feel there's a gap because there aren't trained educators, I would say, teacher trainers who
Ah,
understand pedagogy.
so,
So there is a nice, so I feel post pandemic, there has been quite a change and understanding of pedagogy has become more relevant and execution has enhanced. This is my understanding as much as I see around with the teachers that I work with.
oh, wonderful. And you really zeroed in on a very important point. We don't have good trainers,
Yes.
teacher trainers. I mean, we are seeing a trend these days that people attend one or two conferences or workshops and they label themselves as a expert. And
Yes.
then people start listening to them. And then, that's how the quality is absolutely coming down. And the ones who are actually an expert say, I don't have the time, to go out there and teach others. So that's going to be our next capsule now, where I'm going to come back to each and every one of you about the dearth of teacher trainers. And do you think that teachers should be selective about whom they learn from? Because today's day and age, Google is also cannot be trusted. AI definitely can't be trusted. I mean, if you are referring to AI, you need to know your facts before you refer to AI. So, do you feel that we have a dearth of good teacher trainers, good experts, and how do we cope with that? Karen, over to you.
Thank you so very much, Swati. Again, I've been listening and listening. So, I'm an academician by heart. Okay. But I've actually taught. I used to teach in NMIMS for 8 years, in fact, and 4 years I taught core MBA and then 4 years social entrepreneurship. So I am an academician, but obviously not a, daily academician. Let me put it that way, right? And hats off. I mean, it's a tough job. I mean, I've been hearing what all of you have been saying, and as I keep telling people, if teachers were not there, none of us would be who we are, right? And we all know that.
True.
So I think, when you talk about Swati, teachers teaching, okay, train the trainer or teachers
Yeah, yeah.
facilitation. I think, yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right that, who you learn from is as important as what you learn from. And especially today, there's so much of content available that it's almost impossible to tell someone to pay for content because they feel like, Arey, ye to mujhe milta hai. Google auntie, as you said. you know. So, but is that really true? Is that really true? I mean, we all know that there are degrees of knowledge and degrees of experience. So for us to say that, I can get that knowledge for free anywhere is really belittling first and foremost what knowledge means, and it is actually doing yourself a disfavor, right? Because what you're saying is that I don't want to learn from the best. I want to learn from what is free, you know. And I think
Yeah.
that's a very important distinction to make, right? Because that's as good as saying I can learn from any school. Why would I go to the school that you are, right? So if you expect your students, the parents of your students to respect your school, then you have to respect the source of your knowledge that you're going to transfer to those students. So yeah.
How wonderful. How wonderful. I think that's exactly what many people these days are not doing, is valuing something if it has a cost attached. And they devalue that even to get that knowledge costed that person. And it is very important to look at it as an investment and not a cost. That is very, very important. Uh, Rekha, you've been a principal, and I have seen that how you were absolutely focused on local to global. I mean, even now I see you working with conferences which have both local and global speakers, participants, etc. Do you feel that we need to get over our mindset that only people who are global speakers are good speakers and local speakers में इतना दम नहीं है?
I agree with you 100%. And when I was listening to all of you, and I was just thinking, हम लोग सिर्फ अपना attitude बदल दे, then the whole world will only change. So Swati, when I was listening, and everybody speaking with so much passion, and you were so right. Like when even Amrita speaks, first thing that comes out is her passion. We always say when the student is ready, the teacher appears. But my request to all the teachers over here is what I learned from Dr. Harish Shetty: have a principals movement, have a teachers movement, move from that chair.
Hmm.
And we need good local leaders who are training us, teaching us. There's so much dearth of it, but they are available. And I agree 100%. When you're paying for it, value ज़्यादा होता है, नहीं है. But people don't want to pay and learn, and that's the
Hmm.
sad part of it. We all, I'm sure, we attended conferences, we paid from our own pocket, and we learned, and we are spreading that. But Swati, we really need more of interaction, more of online. Rise and EC is doing things for us, and lot of connectivity locally. So what I would say, what really worked for me was that I would, it very well. I would not give the principals a choice, and I would say, let me come and sit in your office for 2 hours. I promise I will not do musty, but I will just learn from you. And we really need to learn from each other, and we don't even realize how much we learn just sitting there because of the way of our knowledge, the way of our attitude, the way we conduct ourselves as educators with parents, teachers, and all. So, hai sab jagah, and there's no dearth of it. And today, because of the online platform, we can get all the international people also. But your physical mein maza hai, it's very different. So, one, that physical proximity adds on to us emotionally also. So, we don't have the mental issues. But we really need to make that investment. I always say if we make investment in our human resources, we are done. We are great educators, and we can really make a difference. And that's how it helped me, because I was playing a role of a trustee also, principal also, and teacher. So maybe that also helped. But like I always tell Swati, get out of your chair, or otherwise invite me to your neighboring chair. So that really helps.
Yeah, you really pushed me out of the office, and it's a different world when you're out of that chair. It's a very different world.
And you have so much to contribute, Swati. We don't realize on this, you'll have so much to contribute. So
So,
even if we make it once a week or once a month of going out and making a difference, it'll really help the educators out there.
absolutely.
Full
In
stop.
fact, when I was listening to a lot of the people on this panel, um, uh, like one of them said that we don't have books till grade five. There is another school in Delhi, the Vallabhbhai Patel Vidyalay, which teaches in Hindi till grade five. And yet, when I met their eighth and ninth standard children, they were all speaking fluent English. So I think these become best practices for us to imbibe, go visit. I don't know why we don't visit each other's schools, or come and visit each other just as a professional, boost. I think ECA APER should come out with a dictionary of best practices. What each one of you is doing, each one of you has a best practice that can become part of a book that can inspire so many others. So I think, Karen, the one of the takeaways that has come out from this roundtable of yours is that we should come out and bring out each one's best practices out there for everybody to learn from. Umesh ji, coming to you, um, having a place like a science center requires adults there who would be able to engage with children, who would be able to also know the subject matter. So how do you handle all that?
Yeah. For us, we have some permanent staff who are educators, though they are not trained educators. We should is more of a job on job training. Then we take trainee teachers, you can say, means B.Ed or MSc. Now we have started calling them recently science communicators, and we take postgraduates. But we have our own training setup. We train them how to communicate, how to engage your visitors, how to tell, because we do not want, because our audience includes, it's a diverse one. It is not only the science background, but it is a layman also who have never gone through science process, or you can say subject. So we take them as fresh graduates. We train them as communicators for 2 years, and if they can be absorbed, it's fine. Otherwise, they can go and have their own entrepreneurship, you can say, or they can go and join schools as well, because they get advantage when they are going for even for schools. I have seen from my experience that many of those, they are getting advantage when they appear for interview in any of the school for science teaching, particularly if they have done B.Ed or means a D.Ed also sometime. So that is how we take, and that keep on changing. But we also collaborate with other science centers overseas as well, like Science Museum Group, London, or Smithsonian's, so that we come to know, even with Israel also, how we can make our teaching practice better. Because we are also teachers. We teach the same subject which you people are doing. Only our method is different. We believe
Yes,
more of hands-on and
more
kids
experiential.
making low-cost teach, which we can help out to all our respective teachers also. Because I personally feel I am whatever today, it is because of my teachers, no doubt
Yes,
about that. So I respect them a lot, and everyone should do that. They play a very, very critical role
absolutely.
in this. That's
Absolutely. I think what you said resonates very well with all of us, is that everyone everywhere is actually a teacher. It's how we perceive them. The minute you are dealing with a child, you automatically become a teacher. And that is what I think every one of us brings to this panel, that somewhere each one of us has been inspired by a teacher, and each one of us has taught. So I think that's what makes it a common thread for all of us. Monica, coming to you, uh, do you feel that parents respect more foreign teachers than Indian teachers? Do you think that is a trend that is slowly emerging in our country?
Uh, I won't say that, ma'am, in the context of our school, because I think it's the trust and the relationship that matters, that you build over a period of time. So I think that mutual respect for between the teacher and the parent is a beautiful relationship, and that's something that one has to nurture and build thoughtfully. So I don't think that parents differentiate, between expats and local teachers. So it's about, at the end of the day, the parent wants to know how well the teacher knows my child.
True.
How is the teacher supporting my child in his or her learning journey? what are the feed forwards that I'm getting from the teacher? Where do I take my child to the next level of learning? So I think if you continue to receive those kind of feed forwards from the custodian, that relationship is already built and nurtured. So I haven't seen that in the context of our school, that there is a differentiation between expats and the local teachers.
You
But we do,
wonderfully
yes.
zeroed in on relationship, you know. I
Yes.
really love that. Yes. And you were saying?
So that's what, like I said, we haven't seen that that eye, of differentiation and looking at teachers with a different lens. So we have teachers from different parts of the world, different parts of the region within India. And but yes, I have been a very fussy recruiter because when you're talking about what are the qualities that you see in a teacher, so I think it's the attitude, because it's not the content which
Yes,
really matters. And for
absolutely.
the earliest teachers, my question is always, I think that that's a question which is very favorite part of your training, that what do you see play as, like what are your beliefs about
Yes,
play in the early childhood years? If you're looking at play as a reward, then definitely, there is a question mark in your mind, that will this teacher be able to shift from such regimental and traditional beliefs and experiences to a more progressive mindset. So
absolutely.
I think those questions are very important when you're actually doing the placement of the right fit for your organization and for your children, and the way the education starts.
Monica, you brilliantly neutralized the question and gave us a very good perspective that it's not about whether a teacher is an expat or an Indian. It's about her content, it's about her knowledge, and it's about her relationship with the child. So
Yes.
you're not saying that there should be no expats in a school. Why not? Why not? You know,
Yes.
I really loved how you put it, that it's all about, let's not look at them as their nationality or their state from which they come from. Let's look at it from what they are bringing to education. And I think you
Yes.
really, really put that beautifully. Thank you
And I
so
think ma'am, it's also important to have a diverse body of teachers.
Yes,
Just like we have diverse learners, learner variability is something that we
absolutely.
all work towards. And when you have teacher variability in terms of the diversity that they bring to the organization, I think that only makes the organization more robust and its
Absolutely.
culture, you know.
Yeah,
And
I really appreciate how you really spoke brilliantly about not looking at who the teacher is, or rather at what she's bringing to the curriculum, bringing to the content, and bringing to her relationship with children. And I think that's how we all need to view this. Sumita, coming to you, do you feel that we have a dearth of good trainers? That we getting good trainers in all the important areas in which we need to train our teachers?
Um, I have a different view to it. I feel when we talk of training, or rather learning, I think it's also very important for our educators to see that what is the best practice happening in the next room in the same school, and what can I learn from my teacher who's teaching the X grade and also the Y grade. So let me just go and see what are the best practices. So yes, it is certainly very important for us to look within the pool what we have, because everyone has something good, and we need to nurture that. And when we come to the trainers, I feel it's important for us to look at, yes, there are a few, very few good trainers out there whom we can say that, yeah, these are the true ones which we should bring out for our teachers, or maybe teachers can go for their learning. However, even if we don't have, we should not stop the learning. Hence, one feels that it's important that if we are able to scaffold the learning for the teachers, if I want to learn more about maybe class management, maybe as a school system, we can let her go for those trainings and come back and train the other trainers, other teachers. So we can nurture the teachers in a way where we can make them trainers, because everyone has something good in them. We as leaders, I think, have to really look at that one thing, that what that teacher is good at. It could be that maybe there is a teacher who's very good at phonics and wants to go deeper into that. We can send that teacher for good training sessions, and she can come and train the others. And that's how one can build the pool of trainers in-house. However, to answer your question, there are good trainers, but one has to really look for them.
Ah, yes,
So
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
so that's something what I feel.
Absolutely. And I love what you said. Sometimes a good trainer may be just under your nose,
Yeah.
right there in your school. And you may not respect that person because, oh, she's not from outside, you know. So I think that's also a perspective that we need to look at. That when we talk about teachers for change, maybe that expert is right under our nose. And we didn't see it because maybe the expert tag has not been given, or maybe she has not yet spoken at a conference, and that's why but they have daily experience with the children. So if one or two or three of your teachers have really turned around the way a classroom learns, I think they become your trainers much more than anybody from outside can.
Swati,
So
can I come in here?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
I'm
please.
getting very tempted. I'm
I,
getting
I,
very
I was
tempted.
looking at you and you were nodding away. Please, that's
Yeah.
what this roundtable is about. Don't wait for a question to come to you.
Right.
Please tell me.
So, I'm just loving this conversation of teacher training, which is so close to all our hearts, because that's what is the backbone of the school. And and I think everybody spoke what I would have loved to speak. But there are two things I want to add. I love that thing about peer teaching and learning. So what we have, I just wanted to speak about two things. One is there's also a board in the school, all right, where a teacher says, today I'm going to be teaching so and so, and I invite you to come to my class in case you want to learn. It's your choice. And I'm obviously much better prepared. I'm confident, I'm excited, I'm passionate about teaching this. Can you imagine the environment that's created of learning? So I think it's all about an attitude. Somebody did mention the attitude. The second thing, besides all the others, is I have learned from my own experience that probably besides people coming to you, the best trainers coming to you, choosing the best people for different things. So I agree with Sumita when she says there is no dearth of training. If the attitude is right, you'll find them. We found you, Swati. I mean, it was difficult for me to reach out to you, but I reached out. Look at which different corners of the country we are in, but we managed to find you. We managed to find the pep in you. So the other way I think you can easily learn, and we've learned, I don't think it's easy, is travel. I have made my teachers travel to different schools because it's not just about the master trainer, facilitator. It's the walls that speak. It's what's going on as a culture in any other school. We've done that with Shivnadar. We've done that with so many schools. Healthy Planet, with Arunab. I mean, we have really collaborated, and we've gone there, sat down there in the classrooms and learned. So I think again, it's the attitude to learn. You have it, you learn.
Ah, wonderful and
Absolutely.
brilliantly.
Yeah.
And I love that board idea. Sumita, didn't you like that board idea where a teacher says, I'm going to be doing this?
So
And
yeah, so in fact, we have something like that. We have peer learning groups where so we have foundation, nursery, kindergarten, year one and year two as a early years cohort. So in the peer learning groups, we have teachers across board, and they come together once a month. They discuss about something good, what has happened in their classroom, and they learn from each other. other. And also it is time, sometimes the teacher will say, okay, I want to come to your class and I want to observe it. So that's the openness, that anyone can walk in and anyone can observe and learn from each other. So that's how we are able to create great learners as educators. Yeah.
Yes, Shah, tell me, when you take a workshop and you are a wonderful teacher trainer, do you think or do you take any feedback or any inputs that after your workshop, what did the teachers do about it?
So, ma'am, whenever I plan for my workshop, the first thing what I do is I have an interaction with the head of the school who generally approaches me. And I ask her, why do you want me to take this workshop? Then, sometimes the head would say, oh, this is something trending. So, why don't you take something trending? I'm like, no, I'm not going to take something trending. Then I actually have a 1 hour session with them and I break down what are the problems that they're facing in school. Because I feel, ma'am, it's very important to bridge the gap between pedagogy and implementation. See, there are a lot of workshops happening around, ma'am. We all attend these workshops, we absorb, we digest it, but then we don't know how to bring that output in a classroom. And teachers today are not looking for workshops. Teachers today are looking for someone to make this pedagogy into simple implementation. Today we are talking about skill development. Teachers are learning a lot of strategies, but they don't know how to implement the strategies strategically. So during the workshop, what I do is I don't have a structured workshop. Whenever I plan a workshop, it's I take the core pointers, and then when I'm conducting the workshop, I pick the problems that the teachers have. I ask them questions. Okay, how are you going to conduct this lesson in your class? And they come up with problems. And ma'am, you won't believe, I see metacognition during workshops. So they think about their own teaching strategies and they come up with the answer. Oh, yes, ma'am. Can I share an example? I had this
Please.
workshop on, teachers came up to me and said, ma'am, we talk about visible thinking, but when we talk about early childhood, children don't know what is wonder. I said, okay. So one of the teachers, so I told them that you could ask these kind of questions. Then she said, yes, ma'am, we do ask these questions. What do you think would happen? Okay. So I said, what are these questions? Ma'am, they are wonder questions. So one second, did you like wonder to these questions? So do your children know the term wonder? They don't know the term wonder. So it's very important to smoothly, ask these questions and tell them, wow, you are wondering about this. And then later on, it becomes a part of their vocabulary when they go to junior and when they go to senior. So teachers know strategies, but sometimes, when they are actually implementing them in the class, they just need mentors, ma'am. They need wonderful mentors who support them. So teacher training is not about, an expert who comes, trains you and walks away. She should be an expert who stands there and who's willing to resolve all the questions that the teacher has for that problem. And further on, I never take feedbacks like, okay, give me a feedback how your workshop was. Ma'am, I don't want a feedback. The reason is I get the remuneration, that is my feedback, right? What is my feedback about? So what I do is, for example, if I do a workshop on visible thinking, I tell them everything that you learned in this workshop, take a visible thinking strategy and just put it down. And I have these sticky notes where some teachers have used certain visible thinking strategies and actually shared their learning. But the saddest part is, ma'am, that most of the schools don't come back and discuss about how they've implemented. Even if you want to, you want to go further, you want to tell them, I'm willing to support you. There is no remuneration required at all. We're willing to support you. We just want to see whether we've been the change. But I think that is required, ma'am. It's not the feedback; it's the back and forth communication and also being open to learning and also saying what worked and what didn't work for their schools. So,
Absolutely. I think when
uh,
teachers attend a training, they sometimes forget that you can add this very smoothly into your daily teaching practices, etc. Sometimes teachers are confused. I have this idea, but I have a format of teaching. Now, how do I mix it here? That becomes an issue. Karen, you were saying something?
I just wanted to differentiate, like, what you just said, the difference between, kind of learning something and then implementing it. So I like to always talk about it as a difference between process and practice.
Hmm.
It is so easy to define a process, right? Or to draw out a process or to kind of put down step by step and say, this is the process. But when you actually convert it into practice, there's so much of a difference between the two of it. And what happens more often than not, that practice starts to get dependent on the person, while a process can be created absolutely and should be created absolutely independent of the person implementing it. And so very often this differentiation is not really understood because there is a person dependency when you move to the practice point of view. And so, yeah, just what I
Yes.
mean.
I think you nailed it so brilliantly.
Ma'am, can I
Process.
come in for a minute, please?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, please,
like full
please.
of a little something which I would like to, share with everybody. Uh, End of the day, we are dealing with humanity and not industry, right? So, what I am doing these days with my cohort, although this is a very simple, plain thing, I have put a label somewhere or the other in their classrooms or wherever they can identify with that little thing that I put up. Realize your competencies. Over the
Hmm.
years, I have realized that every teacher has a locus of control. She wants to come out with it. She wants to imbibe that little locus of control or whatever is inbuilt through her years of experience. She wants to express it. And that, if she does it, if she's given a chance, if she's empowered to do it for some time and, build up on that and exemplify her uh, kind of, inbuilt energy for that little area for the others, for her peer group, for her, generally whosoever is observing her, even for the children, she's very happy with it. And that happiness quotient really helps her out to build up on certain things where she's a little low. The imbalance gets corrected for itself. So it's basically, I've been practicing it now for the last couple of years. I've been telling my clan, okay, just realize where you're competent
Hmm.
for and
Hmm.
of. Come out with it, express it more, and empower others. Give them those examples which they may follow. And it becomes a very cohesive, end of the day, we have to create a very cohesive group that really matters. That's what really gives identity to whatever philosophy or the practices we are following in our schools. So that
Absolutely.
cohesiveness amongst the peers of these little clans that we have in the school, let's not make them into an industry by giving them so much of training that it
Yeah,
goes beyond them. Let them
absolutely.
realize that they have a little inbuilt something which needs to come out, which will be beneficial for them, for the children, and for so many other people within these walls of a school building. So that's my way of empowering,
I think
a little
that's very
something.
beautiful, Nanu, because you are also now focusing on helping us understand that there is something called too much training. That
Yes, ma'am.
is that training actually required, then let's give it. Otherwise, let's not just give training for the sake of giving training. Jasmine,
Yes,
coming back to you again as a standalone preschool, what are your challenges when it comes to training your teachers?
Same, ma'am, the attitude. See, what I do is I'm always interested in taking training myself. Then I find that what kind of specific training can be given to the each teacher. See, each teacher cannot be good at phonics. Each teacher cannot be good at classroom management. Each teacher cannot be good at art and craft. So I literally found them so that they are interested also. If the
Hmm.
particular teacher is interested in knowing ki, ma'am, how I can make my child write better or how I can make them write, start writing and all. So I will be interested in training them in this particular area rather than giving them general training. So I have, one request to you. You just train me. I'll train them. So particularly, I will be honored to, to get training from all of you. I mean, I'm very honored to be here. And this is a fact, ma'am. I cannot train my all the teachers generally. I need to see what are their area of interest and what are they are good at and
Ab-
what where they are lacking. So
Absolutely.
Can I,
I'm doing that.
can I
I
come here?
I
could
also
I add
like some
something?
of these comments which we are getting, especially one from Prem Prakash. that teacher training is empowering, must be done regularly, both on pedagogy and soft skills. I so agree with you. Cascading the same is essential, must apply and do impact assessment. I think the listeners also are contributing a lot to this ongoing discussion on teacher training. I think that topic of teacher training has resonated very well with all of us here. Somebody was saying something
I,
before I
I
took up.
wanted to just come in a little, Swati, because I resonate with, I think Nanu said that, it's just, you can't be doing everything. Sometimes we confuse the system also. Too much of teacher training. So I think what's very important as an organization, and because there's a slightly largish organization, if we just, okay, you can do whatever you want to, would just confuse the whole system. So you have to be very clear, I think, as an institution, whether it is preschool or it is a senior school, what is it that you're looking for? What's your aim? What is the ecosystem really wanting to impart as, as a value system, education system to your kids? I don't know whether I'm getting the right words. So
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
no confusion at all. So I think clarity with the leadership, clarity with the management is very important. Once that's done, which again helps in teacher training, I think it's important to take a need analysis from the teachers every year. When we plan our yearly training, we
Right.
first ask the teachers that, okay, our curriculum is set, we know what we have to do, and we've added a few things here and there, because we thought, with the coming back to your first question, change, times are changing, we need to change. So having traveled, having got exposed, having learned a lot of things, what is it that you think you're lacking in? It's
Hmm.
the teachers who tell us this is what we need training on. We only
Absolutely.
then go out to look for facilitators or any other model of training for the teachers, keeping that in mind. I just wanted to add.
I think that's wonderful because it's also now outlined in the NEP. When we talk about self assessment, we say we must take self assessment from students. But I think self reflection of teachers is so much more important. Bhavna, in her comment, has said that the best teachers are actually the students. And sometimes the students tell us whether something is working or not working. So, my question now to Karen is, do you think teachers are taking enough time to self reflect or are able to take feedback from students? Or are we still in that mentality of that age old, that I am the teacher, you can't tell me how to do my job? What do you feel, Karen?
Unfair question is what I feel.
I'm controversy's child. Y'all wait. I have just softened y'all up for with nice questions. Now you wait and watch the questions which are going to come.
Our teacher here and asking such a question, yeah. So, I mean, no, I think it's everything is always contextual, right? There are no black and white areas. It's always gray. So you'll have different degrees. There'll be some teachers who are, absolutely willing to learn and look at new things, and then you'll have the other extreme where even I get scared of that teacher. Like I've begin to feel like I'm a, kid once again when you talk to them. So I think you have both extremes for sure. And, I also, again, I would like to say and bring this up for sure that teachers don't only teach, they do a lot of administrative work as well. Let's be very honest. Yeah. And therefore, they have a lot on their plate. So, we need to be conscious about that as well. Correct. Like I am very clear. I'm a visiting faculty. I go and I do my thing. Even when it comes to just correcting papers, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to get the time? Right. So we need to be very, very conscious about this and mindful about it. That, what is teachers are really dealing with. But having said that, it is still a choice you make. All of us make those choices, right? And once you make those choices, you have to take the load, the burden, the description, the JD, whatever that goes with it. So I think once you accept that, going beyond is the next level of choice. And again, it's a choice because unless you're going to push yourself, like I always say, you are always bound by boundaries. There will always be all kinds of boundaries. So unless you're willing to push yourself and, go beyond, for that, the mindset, the attitude, and the discipline is what it takes. I mean, absolutely, there's no two. So you know what that adds up to, right?
Yeah.
Mad. Right? Sometimes you have to be really mad. So that passion is that madness, right? You have to be mindful, you have to have the right attitude, and you have to have the discipline. Because even passion is not enough, unfortunately. You just have got to be mad, all three.
We need mad teachers. We all need to be
I'm
mad
not gonna run
teachers.
away before I get some virtual stones.
We need mad teachers, and I think
If
we
I
have
can
a lot of mad teachers.
if I can just add one thing here, I think
Yes.
it's also about the culture. If we are
Mm.
able to build a culture of giving a feed forward, I think teachers will be more open to working on self. So it's where you have a culture of a non-judgmental culture. When a
Hmm.
teacher knows that I'm not going to be judged in what I'm lagging on, but I'm going to be getting some, suggestions to make it better. So I think
Yeah.
that's something what one can look at.
Absolutely. I think self reflection definitely helps. I do also a lot of self reflection even now. I listen to my workshops and I sometimes cringe and I feel, oh my God, I should have kept my voice a little more softer. See, I'm doing it now also. I think I should keep my voice a little softer. I love self reflection because it's better to be your own self critique than wait for others to criticize you and then feel bad about it. So, Rekha, what about you? What do you think? Do you think teachers do self reflection?
So, before I go ahead, you won't believe what I was thinking. I was looking at Swati and I was seeing all these years of reflection from where to where she has gone. And I said, this is a Swati I like. So, I'll tell you something. Being a trustee and the head of a school, Swati, there has to be a conscious time given to the teachers during the working hours to do that self reflection.
Well said.
That really made a difference to our institution. So we had this time on Wednesdays when I used to not take any class, and I used to have this board outside. I'm listening, and
Ah,
believe me, karoge, I used to not speak a word, and I actually was consciously not judging because when they used to walk into my room, they knew that I would know what colors petticoat they're wearing under their sari. So that was the time when I was not judging at all. And it was, I'm listening. And I would not say, तुमको ऐसा करना चाहिए था, तुमको ये करना चाहिए. I did share at times that I have gone through this and this is what I did. But at the end of the day, it's your life. You have to decide. Every human being, like we said, we are dealing with human beings, wants somebody to listen and also wants that time. And they cannot. Today, teachers, like we said, we have too much of administrative work. They cannot get that time. And my teachers come from real far off in the traffic, some comes in by train. So if we can make it as a part of our organization, it really helps. We also did that with our students, Swati. So what happened? We used to have what was the silent time in our school, where the whole school was silent and we were reflecting together. And this became such a big thing that even when the education inspector used to come, being a high school, he knew he had to sit outside because it was the quiet time. And it's not meditation, it's not anything. It's just listening to your inner voice in that silence, reflecting, introspecting. So at that moment you have to be the mother to the teacher, you have to be a parent to the teacher, and you just, when we are talking of compassion, we just have to be compassionate for each other. But it's work in progress. When we are talking about teacher training, I think we have to train them on physical, mental, emotional, social, spiritual grounds, and we will have the most beautiful school, and that really really worked and helped me as an educator. Full stop.
absolutely. Monica, the NEP talks about, now we are all talking about Parak and holistic progress card and all. And we see a lot of people who don't want to change, a lot of parents who feel, no, the old report card was better. And the NEP, the Parak, the holistic progress card, talks about self assessment by children. Now, if you want children to do their own self assessment, that means teachers will have to do their own assessments. What do you have to say about it?
Uh, so, Dr. Watts, now I think being very fortunate to be a part of the IB journey, because
Mm.
assessments are very integral to teaching and learning. And then self assessment is a fabric of every classroom. For the younger grades, definitely, it's something that we don't really, facilitate self assessments because they're too young, the early years. But from an age where they can self evaluate and self analyze and self monitor their progress, that's when they really engage with self assessment. Because there is a way that you have to approach these assessments, so that kind of an orientation has to be first done with the children, that what are you assessing, what is the criteria that you're going to use to self assess, because you can't be having so many criterions for assessment which are
Yeah,
not defined, because then where are you, what is your approach, what is your focus, where are you arriving? So
true.
I think that kind of a training needs to be done with the children, and also with the teachers, that when they you know engage with this kind of a practice in the classroom. And that's something, like I said, is a part of being the IB framework. It's a fabric of every classroom. And then even in the progress report card, there is a self reflection which is done by the children, for the goals, the learning goals that they had identified in collaboration with the teacher and the parents when they started their journey into the new academic year. We give them regular breaks and pauses in between to see how, where have you reached with your learning goal, what is the support that you require, what kind of resources will help you to meet your learning goal. And that's very beautifully documented like a learning story. So at the end of the year, we celebrate that with the parents, and the
Mm.
children take complete ownership of that evaluative journey, or that self assessment journey that they have
True.
traveled over a period of time. But this definitely needs a bit of an orientation, because it just cannot be done, come on children, now you're self assessing based on what criterion, what was
True.
the objective, what was the purpose of the engagement,
Very true.
what are you evaluating. So what is the road forward, what roadmap have you created to move next in your level of learning? So that's how we engage, in our classrooms. Like for the younger learners, it's more of conversational feedback and dialogues. How well have you done this? So there are constant and continuous dialogues and conversations between teachers and the younger learners. But for the older group, definitely we want to have increased level of independence when we do self assessments or peer assessments for that matter.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And as you rightly said, the new HPC now basically gives them emojis to choose from as a
Yes,
assessment, so that they start early to understand that they also have a say. They are building their self-esteem, so they also get that feeling of that I can also contribute to it. So I think I completely agree with that.
I
Yesha,
think
yeah,
just just
tell me
just
more.
to add to it, Dr. Bo, because we though emojis is something that works very well with the young learners, but I think the emojis should also be backed with a descriptor,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
that's so important for a child to get a very genuine feedback. A happy emoji has no relevance. Why am I getting a happy emoji? Why did I
No,
get
no,
that? What did I
these
do?
are not what the child is going to get. The HPC gives a happy emoji and a like this emoji for a child to choose about what he feels about the activity. So the child is choosing an emoji. So that means now child is assessing the activity. Did I enjoy
Yes,
it or did I not enjoy it? Because we
yes,
usually don't ask
yeah,
children the question that did you
yes,
enjoy the activity? We assume that because we found this on Pinterest and it was meant for 3-year-olds,
yes,
5-year-olds,
absolutely.
8-year-olds, they will enjoy the activity.
Yes. So just
That,
feel that maybe a descriptor could be, given more weightage to go
yes,
with the emoji, that this is why
absolutely.
I will be picking this emoji for myself.
Yes, yes, yes. I fully agree with that. Yesha, what do you think? Do you think self reflection is teacher led or more management pushed? Do you think teachers really practice self reflection, or they do it only when they are forced to do it?
So, ma'am, I look at it from two perspectives. So, when I started working with teachers very closely, I found that teachers uh, found it very difficult to express themselves. So, I believe in the gradual release model. I believe in scaffolding. So what we started doing, I would like to share something what we started doing, because also it is linked to NEP, NCF, and skill development. So what we started doing, because we are a group of schools, we do have a curriculum, and we need to standardize the curriculum. But we took that one step. We gave one day to a teacher. So from every school, a senior grade teacher would come, and we would sit with them, and we would discuss the curriculum for the month. We would take a lot of feedbacks from them about the previous month. And while we were discussing the curriculum, we would ask teachers, okay, what do you think? What are the skills that we're implementing? And slowly and steadily, they will start understanding that what is the connection between a learning outcome, between a skill, and what is their role. Also, during reflection, it is very important not to be judgmental. You have to just be a listener. I think one of the speakers here mentioned about it. You have to just be a listener, and even if their reflections are not moving towards your expectations at times, sometimes it's always out of context at times. It's absolutely okay, because I think what I observed in the 3 years when we started this whole program, the first year, that teacher was so apprehensive to speak. Today, the same teacher, when she comes in for reflection, she's so vocal, and she has a list of points when she gets back. I think reflective practices have to be very, very continuous. Second, like you asked, ma'am, is it teacher driven or management focused? So it has to be both, because as from the management part, or from someone who looks into the curriculum and the execution, I need feedbacks, and we don't need fancy feedbacks. We need uh, execution feedbacks, what's working, what's not working. But equally, we have to make it teacher driven. So somewhere we have to find that midpoint where teachers should feel comfortable to open up in front of leaders, and leaders should become mentors, not administrators. So that is something I would like to share.
Oh, that's brilliant. Brilliant. I really like that, that it has to be a continuous journey. We can't just we have a one-off reflection and then we forget about it. And only then will they grow into this method of self-reflection. Mr. Prem has also put in one more comment that CBSE has made a pool of teacher trainers. I think NCRT also has a pool of trainers. But my take on all this is that some of these trainers are very good with, if you read their notes, because there are two kinds of trainers. There are trainers who speak and are not able to speak as well uh, and inspire an audience. Uh, and there are some who can write very well. So that's why you learn more from articles, or you learn more from blogs, written blogs. And some are good on video or face to face, etc. So we also need to make that kind of a distinction when we are selecting trainers, that what are they going to be good at and what is my teacher going to enjoy most from them. Jasmine, tell me, do you do self reflection as a school owner?
Yes, ma'am. I've kept one day Saturday because Saturday is free from preschool. So I call everyone, even lower staff, my drivers, everyone to just come here. I'm here for the whole day. I call for literally a treat. So I just wanted them to release their stress. I listen to their every single problem, even family problems, which they are not able to, discuss with anyone. So I've given them one day, so they are relaxed. Then they bug up and they get ready for the next week. This is my every week system. I ask them to be just, calm. Itna nahi hona chahiye on Saturday. You just need to relax as well, because their Monday to Friday is literally very heavy.
Absolutely.
On kids'
Absolutely.
part, on the parents' part, ma'am, because parents are like that. For us, they are continuously discussing each and everything about their child. So they don't have any time for themselves, at least between Monday to Friday.
Yeah, so it's nice to have a day in which they can do that and
Yes.
come to you, etc. So
Yes.
I'm going to get
I
some.
wanted to come. Can I?
Tell me.
Yeah. So, I mean, when we were talking about self-reflection, feedback, feed forward, I think they're all kind of interconnected. We have been listening to a lot. Do we listen to the others? I think this is a culture in the school. Somebody rightly mentioned that also. And I personally feel culture begins from the top. We are sitting here and we are supposed to be, it's our responsibility to create the right positive culture. For that, it's of course important to listen to people. But again, I have learned the very tough way. It's very important for me to sit down with my group and talk to them about my problems and my failures and my mistakes. When I speak to them and tell them, look, I can openly speak about the mistakes I've made, and I'm trying, still working on a journey, because you don't overcome your problems overnight. So it's okay for you to discuss your problems and talk about your mistakes, and you can't get rid of them overnight. So I think that's the culture which we have to take responsibility for.
Absolutely. And that's why I said I'm going to enter some murky water now. Let's address the elephant in the room. Yes, we said we need to do this for teachers. Teachers are not getting this. It's time we do this for them. But there is also the other side of the coin where I personally feel that we are these days struggling with a lack of ethics in teachers. Uh, not lack of commitment, a lack of dedication, a lack of passion, a lack of wanting to learn. So let's discuss as leaders what are these that we are facing, and if any one of us has solutions of how we can overcome it. Because I feel bad when a teacher leaves in the middle of an academic year. I mean, I can understand if it was health related or anything, but you got a better job, so you left in the middle of the year, not realizing that your students have started an academic year and you need to complete it. So, these are the kind of things that many schools are struggling with. There are schools who are forced to keep the qualification certificates of teachers so that they don't leave. There are schools that have to make a contract. So, we are facing a dearth in teacher ethics, and which is a very important component of teacher training in many countries. Sadly, it's not in our country. So I'm going to first start with Mr. Umesh, that when you appoint people in your organization, do you find yourself struggling with what ethics used to be and what it is now, and how do you deal with it?
No, in our organization, I don't think we have that kind of problem, because our recruitment process is slightly different, and we are having more of a versatile job, nature of job. Uh, Another thing is, means when it comes to the ethics, and there's not much change, but yes, we have to self introspect. We have to learn new things, new technology. Things are changing very fast. This world is changing so fast, whether it is AI, whether it is printing technology, whether it is presentation. So yes, there we face some problem. But as I told you in another question, that we have our own training setup where we
Yes.
try to keep them updated. We have refresher course also, and whatever new things are coming, we try to keep them updated. So that problem, yes, as usual, it happens in every field, because when changes happens, you have to upgrade yourself. So for teachers also, there are orientation course, there are upgradation. But one thing in the previous question also, I would like to add this. This we need to tell, whether it is teachers or communicators, that if you don't know something, there is no harm in that. We should learn to accept that, yes, there are certain things, because nobody knows everything in this world. And it is always sometimes good that you don't know something, so that you can upgrade. But that culture, as Amrita ma'am has also told, that it should start from the top, and we
Yes.
should not have any hesitation to accept that this is something we don't know, and we need to upgrade ourselves. I'll give you one small example. We have recently started one certificate. It is for residents basically. It is called certificate in experimental skill. You know, nowadays school, they don't encourage students to do experiments in their classroom. Mostly it is theoretical subject, and practical marks are given randomly, you can say, or based on their theoretical performances throughout the year. But when we invited some teachers to see that this is what setup we have done, and you need to learn how to do these experiments so that students can also be, because we are facing a lot of dearth and problem so far as technical hands are concerned. We are more of theoretician. We don't have the practical knowledge. When we ask teachers, okay, can you just have a hands on this and learn? They were much reluctant to do that. So I think that we need to, because until unless they will not learn, they cannot encourage students also that experiment are very, very important. And whatever they learn, they can understand it better if they do it through experimentation, observation, and all that together, what you call scientific practices.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to add.
You know, the NEP very boldly talks about emotional, social, and ethical development. And that's why I've included this question here, that are we really looking into teacher ethics? Because it all boils down from there. So, Amrita, what's your take on this?
So I think teacher ethics is a major issue everywhere. We are all kind of struggling. And as an organization, we've also had to, kind of implement, as you mentioned, do something or the other to see to it that mid-session, without any reason, health reasons, marriage, etc., everybody understands. So, but one more thing that I have realized again over the years, why is it that the teacher ethics is low? Let's leave all that aside, that somebody's basic character is not okay, etc. I think that streak or the number there is very low. Why is it then that teachers still want to leave me? So I think it's a very important question again on the organization and on us again as leaders. Are we giving them the right environment to work? If we give them the right environment to work, we look at their needs, all kind of needs. We also make them feel that once they are with us, there is a growth for them in it. And I've realized that when you make teachers feel that there is going to be a larger purpose of theirs, which is also going to be met if we are colleagues and we work together, most of them, over the years, I have realized that my teacher attrition has gone down tremendously. The other thing is, when we are open to listening to them, if they have to leave, they will come, open the door, sit in front, speak to us, tell us, this has been my problem. Please see if you can handle it. I am ready to still continue working. And one last thing, money matters. Salary and a good environment both matter. Are we the best paymasters? If we are not, you'll have ethical issues. So I'm not really sure whether this ethical issue cannot be handled. I think to a large extent it can, and it's worked for us.
So, we are again tying ethics to monetary appeasement. I'm talking about the ethics of, fine, my needs were not met, but
Yes. No,
do
but
I give up
I
on my students' needs for my
no, it's not about the monetary appeasement. It's when probably I have not done justice to somebody's capability. I also need to understand that this person deserves better. And let me tell you, I'm sure even in the larger cities, it's a lot in the smaller cities, where people do tend to really pull the strings. And I feel it's not fair. If a teacher deserves it, then the teacher should get it. So are we understanding not only the needs, but I think something that the teacher deserves? Are we really understanding what the teacher deserves? So what I'm trying to say, probably in a nutshell, I don't know whether I'm being able to explain it. If
Oh,
we
no,
put
you are.
care of them, their ethics don't usually get compromised. I'm not trying to tell you, oh,
Well,
everybody's ethics is perfect.
well,
I think you can work on a lot of this. People are forced to leave their ethics because we are not always good to them. This is what I was
I
coming to.
think what you said very well is that if we are somewhere compromising their ethics, and we
Or
need,
maybe not ethical ourselves.
yeah, so we need to look for those loopholes,
Yes.
those gaps when we talk about teacher ethics. Rekha, one of the issues that I have noticed why teachers leave is politics. You've been a principal. How do you handle politics? Because sometimes teachers are scared to even come to us about a bully who may be their immediate senior, and then they leave a job saying मेरा पैर टूट गया है इसलिए मैं नहीं आ पाऊंगी, and then you come to know, oh my God, she's working in another organization. पैर पैर तो ठीक है उसका. So how do you handle politics?
So like I tell them, politics घर में भी होता है. So first try to intervene and talk to them. But I find a lot of people who are very obstinate, and that is where we मार खा जाते हैं. And we have lost one or two teachers because of that politics and that ego thing coming in the between. And there is no issue, according to me, from the chair where I am sitting. But sometimes, being the head, you try to explain to them. You can try your best. And I have got even families involved at times because I had to get them involved and talk to them. But again, I am listening without judgment, comes at the forefront. But there have been times when you have to let go because they have made up their mind, not because of the politics, but because they have made up their mind. And thankfully, because from KG to 12th, all our teachers get seventh pay, so leaving for salary has not been an issue. But politics and ego has been a very, very major issue for us, and we have lost good teachers. And for me, sorry to go back to the previous question, I would like to, for me, ethics is also whether I'm coming on time, whether I'm giving my 100%,
Yes,
and
yes.
whether I am taking that Tachni and the blue tack and the post-it home for my self-consumption. Like a teacher very sweetly told her son and slapped him and said, I have told you not to bring it from your school, I will bring it from my school. This is the way we are teaching ethics and honesty. So I was taught that अगर टाच नहीं भी स्कूल की है तो उधर रखना है. So
Yeah.
these little
Very
things do come
interestingly,
up.
ma'am, I remember when I was heading the Teachers Training Institute for Balbharti. So I was, whenever I used to go to class as a teacher educator, and there was this paper termed School Organization and Management. It was a 40 marker. Just out of those 40 marks, 5 were kept aside for professional ethics. And the professional ethics list was saying, as very rightly said by Rekha ma'am, punctuality, regularity, taking attendance properly, but there was no mention of commitment level. If we look into a larger social arena these days, commitment for this generation, the coming up generations from now, it is low on so many domains. So why for the profession? They are not relating themselves to that particular ecosystem into which they are entering. They have not been trained correctly. I must admit this. Why? Because the teacher capacity or the trainable aspects are not attuned to that. There is just a 5 mark question in the paper that comes to them. And then when they enter into an ethos or an ecosystem which is a good culture, the commitment part, we are not giving them any awareness or training for. They have to be prompted a little. They have to be prompted that this is a very important aspect. Yes, we have to satisfy their needs, I agree totally. But then we have to work a little on their psyche when it comes to attaining that commitment.
Absolutely.
May I
Monica,
just add something? May I just add something here?
Yes, please, ma'am.
I think it's also very important the way we tell our teachers to know their learner. It's very important for us school leaders to also know our teachers and look at their growth and their well-being. Because if they are happy, they will certainly connect with their learners. They will know their learners. They are going to be ethical in whatever they are going to be doing if we are ethical with them. So I think that's something which is very important for us to know our teachers. That's something what I wanted to just add here.
no, that's wonderful. Monica, what about you?
Yes,
How
ma'am.
do you handle politics or
I think, ma'am, a bit of a healthy gossip
is
is, it actually can work both ways. It can be a booster, it can be a dampener. When it starts impacting somebody's well-being, whether
Mm,
it's a student or a parent or a colleague, then I think then heartstrings need to be pulled, because I think when an employee joins, the vision of the school is very clearly laid out, that these are our organizational values, these are our beliefs. And when it starts working as a dampener, and when you go out of the frame of your expectation of how much you can gossip, and if it's your political agendas are causing that breakdown, then I think firm conversations are important to have with those
very
members, because then it's a very wrong message to the other colleagues. Now when we are talking about ethics, integrity is something you have or you don't have. You can't
yeah,
train somebody to teach them integrity. It's your character.
yes,
But definitely, if it's a skill gap, that's something that you can develop. You can create a plan for your teachers. So I think then conversations and feedback depends on what is the issue that you're facing. And I remember that when I entered this beautiful field of education 25 years ago, this was a very soft option, and parents would say, okay, come on, do the B.Ed, and then you can join a school. A very soft option. It was not a very aspirational career, but the demand is very different. It's like a profession. You have to have commitment, and those professional development sessions will vary from teacher to teacher. And the foundational skills that we were talking about, soft skills, now effective communication, respectful communication within an organization with each other, is a very important part of every organization, whether it's a school or it's a corporate,
true.
because people make the organization or break the organization. And I think whenever there has been some issue with parents, or whenever there has been a breakdown, when you go to the root analysis, it's always from within. Somebody from within, frivolous conversations, or, um, you know, you haven't really thought about your conversation with the parent and bend backwards. These have caused, these have resulted in concerns, queries, distress. So I think that's something that comes to how effective is the communication within the community, and how can we actually nurture that effectiveness
Absolutely.
and
And I've
response.
realized something, Monica, that sometimes as a leader, it's best not to touch things too much. Like
Absolutely.
when you say gossip ho raha hai ya jo bhi hai.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
always tell teachers, you all are adults. I'm sure you all can sort it out amongst
Yes.
yourselves. So the
Absolutely.
more you get involved, the
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
it kind of blows off on your face.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then they become so dependent on you coming every time to put off
Solving everything.
others.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I think that works the best.
Yes.
Yeshna, what Monica said something about soft skills. I see that corporates train their employees a lot on soft skills. Do you think enough is being done in training teachers on soft skills?
Uh, I think the currently what I see the trend is everybody understands that soft skills is important, because I'll tell you where they want to train their teachers for soft skills. They want to train their teachers for soft skills to interact with parents. That's
Yes,
why soft skills is coming in. Let if you said let's bring the elephant out, this is the elephant.
yes.
Actually, the today when NCF talks about parent school connection, And the schools have understood that, the foundation here plays a very important role. It's the
Yes.
teacher who brings this connection with the parents. And once the children are in, further on, the parent interaction actually reduces.
Yeah.
So schools are actually focusing on soft skills, especially within the foundation years. But I think somewhere, we are missing out on very important aspects. Communication, yes, it is very, very important. But beyond communication, having an understanding, having empathy, being, building connection with parents, it's much more beyond soft skill. And like some of our speakers have mentioned, it should come from the top. Like as a leader, if I, speak politely, if I use appropriate language, and our daily discussions, within the team, during a meeting, if we are role models to them, I think automatically teachers imbibe these skills, and these skills are projected out whether to parents, whether to students. And soft skills are not about talking to parents, ma'am. It's very
Yeah.
important that,
Yeah.
especially in a classroom, raising a voice and a tone that, or if you speak softly, I think the class
Absolutely.
automatically
Absolutely.
will be like, oh, they know that this is the speaking level
Mm.
for that class. So but many a times we think that soft skill is just having a polished language, or seeing to that your personality is shown out,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's far beyond that, ma'am.
I
So
think
this is
all of
my
us,
take.
even as educators, I have come across many educators, many leaders who lack soft skills and who turn around sometimes and tell me, मैं मुझे बहुत बुरा लगा था उस दिन मैंने बताया नहीं लेकिन मैं आज बता रही हूँ and I said why did you not just come. I mean, conflict resolution is something we are supposed to teach children. If we ourselves don't have conflict resolution, what are we going to teach children, so I think that is something that we must imbibe in our teachers and ourselves, the ability to resolve conflicts without letting it hamper our socio emotional development. And I think that's very, very important when we become leaders. So this roundtable was supposed to be from 3 to 5, and I just had a look at the time, and it's already quarter to 5, and I didn't realize, wow, we really talked and didn't get bored or didn't bore people. So I'm going to end by just taking your
And
last.
can I say something,
Yes,
please? Sorry
please,
to
please.
interrupt you.
Yes, yes.
Bring from my point of view, ma'am, relating to the last topic. I just wanted to say what I found is in my school, I have teachers since from my inception. So what I did is I just took care of their self-respect. I
Ah,
made them feel very important in my system. I always involve them in my every decision, whether it
wonderful.
is for my annual sports day. Now my annual sports day is planned on this 1st of February, so I discuss with them every single detail, how the trophies should be, how the medals should be, so they feel very important in my system, that yes, we are also important, we are just not simple teachers, we
Mm,
are something more than that.
right.
If that is being done according to me in preschools specifically, ethics issues can be solved, what I've seen.
Absolutely. I think
Swati,
very
when
well
I
said. Yeah. Yes, Amrita.
just want to add very quickly because I know time is running out. When we're talking about ethics, I think we were talking about culture. I think from the induction stage of the
Mm,
teachers to whenever you're sitting down to speak to each other,
mm,
there has to be a very soft mention, always continuously, of the institution has a zero tolerance towards this. You don't have to go talking to them every time. But if that is the discussion, that these are the norms of the institution, either they just, then they change, they understand if we want to remain here, this is the zero tolerance area
mm,
and we have to change. Or
mm.
then probably they feel maybe this is just not the right place for me.
Absolutely.
I just thought I'd mention that.
I think zero tolerance is what is very important. If we also make a rule of zero tolerance for gossip or zero tolerance for bullying, we do make them for children. Why not make them for adults? I remember when we had a school in the UAE, we had a poster that when you gossip, children also learn to do the same. So it's very, very important that we imbibe these things, we create a culture that teachers are able to follow. So just to end the roundtable, I would like to come back to each one of you in a short one or two sentences. How would you like to round up the talk on Teachers for Change? Starting with you, Karon.
So, thank you again. I think it's been so amazing listening to everybody. I think for me, very simply, I would say is that, we focus on the words teachers for change, right? We've got to accept. Until we accept that change is inevitable, we are never going to able to even take the next steps towards change. So I think that acceptance is something, and that's what we spoke about. The mindset is really what I want to reinforce again.
Wonderful. Acceptance and mindset. Rekha?
Don't give up. We will all change together.
I like that. That's wonderful. Umesh ji?
Uh, from science center point of view, I can summarize by saying that teachers, when they are teaching or means, they just try to mix play and reading in such a way that it is win-win situation for all of them.
It's so nice, sir, to hear you say play, because usually schools think it's only their responsibility to talk about play. But I love it that a head of a science center is talking about play. Amazing. Uh,
That's our USP, ma'am.
yes, absolutely. Amrita?
So I think teacher is the catalyst for change. As leaders, we have to handhold them. We have to do it together. And the last two things, we have to brave it, sometimes go against the tide.
Oh, wonderful. Yesha?
For me, ma'am, it would be evolve.
Ah,
That's it. One word, evolve.
wonderful. Sumita?
So for me, teachers are transformative professionals, harnessing scientific knowledge, critical thinking, reflective nature, and collaborative spirit to empower students. And in that journey, as leaders, we have to be with them, not above them. We
Ah,
have to be along with them.
how beautiful. How beautiful. Jasmine?
I'm only one word: holistic development of the teachers.
Ah, lovely. I like that. Monica?
I think for me, ma'am, success and transformation depends on continuous development. I think we need to continue to develop ourselves as educators.
Very true. Nanu?
Now, I would say that teachers have to realize that teaching is the most serious profession on earth, but then it is one of the most happening professions also. We need to evolve each day. It's happening. It's very much happening.
And I always say that teachers are never going to become extinct. Uh,
Yes,
Whether any
absolutely.
number of eyes come, AI, GI, REI, any eyes come, the teacher who will become obsolete is the one who won't understand technology or use technology. And I think that's what the pandemic taught us. So when we talk about teachers for change, as teachers, we need to have cognitive flexibility to be able to adapt, adopt different practices so that our children are able to thrive and not only learn. I think that's what is the crux of what we are all trying to say out here. I hope I have not forgotten anybody. I must share with you all, I once conducted a panel discussion, and at the end of the panel discussion, somebody told me, Ma'am, you forgot me completely in the panel discussion. So I hope that has not happened here. So thank you so much. And over to you, Karen, just to wind up the roundtable.
Great. Thank you so much. And of course, amazing session. I always tell people, when we tell people we'll have a 2 hours roundtable without presentation, they tell us it's impossible. Not possible. No one is going to stay that long. We'll never have enough to talk. And I've proven this every year, every session, that by the end of it, we still can easily go for another half an hour. And in the physical world, we at least could do something about it. But in the virtual world, there's nothing we can do because the next session has to start. There's no way we can tell them to come out. So, So thank you all very much. But keep the conversations going, and that's really what I do want to share before we close. That one is there's a lot of things happening. As I said, over 100 sessions are there happening right now between today and the first of February, which is the last day of the summit. There are mentoring sessions going on. We all know how much we all need to talk in a safe space, and so there are some experts, who are offering mentoring and coaching sessions completely free of course, because there is no cost in this summit at all for anything. So please avail of those facilities. There are chat tables where you can just sit down and wait and see who you can chat with. Sometimes in life you should not have everything planned, right? Just sit and see who cross paths with you, and I think this kind of crossing is a very positive way of crossing paths. So please, would like to invite all of you to check out the portal and of course learn. That's one. Second is, if you'd like to invite your faculty or students to be a part of the sessions, please do that as well, because there's a lot that could be of value. We are talking of topics that all our students must be very much aware of, starting with systems thinking today. Tomorrow is going to be on the sustainable development goals, which is again something we discussed just now. The third day is going to be on CSR, which is corporate social responsibilities. We all want our students to be leaders of tomorrow. Well, for them to be leaders of tomorrow, they have to be citizens of today, right? And with that, they need to understand what is corporate social responsibility, or what is social responsibility in the first place. And then the next day is on ESG, which is on environmental, social, and governance. Again, something very important for the future leaders of our world. And then we close on the last day on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Again, something we all need to imbibe and really understand what it truly means. So I think with that, I'm going to stop over here and wish each one of you an amazing academic year ahead, because I know we all have a lot of things in front of us. But above all, I hope you find your path towards being the teacher for change. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.